Alright, what's going on everyone out there on YouTube? NES Ruler. And welcome to a brand new review. And this time around we'll be checking out a film that was sent to me review by Ignite Films. And you can pick this up on 4K at all your favorite online retailers. It is a film from the year 1953. It is the Cold War sci-fi film Invaders from Mars. So this might possibly be my #1 release so far of the year. Not because of the movie is technically good, but the fact that the time and effort and love that went into restoring this film just really shows with this presentation. You know, if you go back and you look at, let's say, let me pull this out of off the shelf, the old DVD release of this movie, it's really rough looking. There's a lot of issues with the negatives, and it just looks really, really cruddy. And you know, the film's been kind of hard to find over the past few years. It's been out of print for quite a while. So with this movie, with this release, Ignite Films went in and they totally restored this movie. I mean, it's not going to look as amazing as a modern film does, but when you compare it to past releases and what other public domain kind of releases have looked like, I feel like this one is just really, really, really special, and a understanding of what you could do if you painstakingly restore a film to its original glory. Now, there's a lot of natural film grain and things like that, so like I said, it's not going to look as amazing as a modern film, but I appreciate the hard effort that the restorations went in at Ignite Films to make this release possible. So basically, the movie is a pre-Body Snatchers Cold War kind of story that was coming out of America during the time. You know, a lot of these sci-fi, E.T., Martian films were very Cold War inspired, and this one follows the same kind of suit. So basically, we follow David. David is he's a 9 or 10-year-old boy. And one night during a thunderstorm, he sees a flying saucer crash into his sand pit in his backyard. Now, he tells his father this, who is a scientist, and his father goes out to investigate. Well, he doesn't come home, and the next morning, the mother goes out to search for him, and he ultimately shows up at the front door, but he's acting a little bit strange. And David notices he has an X on the back of his head, and as the film goes on, more and more people are starting to act very strange and coming to David's house and going to the sand pit and disappearing underground. And basically what we learn is these Martians are coming from, of course, another planet, and they're brainwashing the humans and putting this chip in their brain that makes them mind-controlled by this leader, which we'll get into in a little bit. But David, it's a cry wolf story. Nobody believes David that these Martians are taking over these people. The only person that believes him is this doctor. And she basically, believes David that what he's saying might actually be true. We are introduced to David's father's colleague, who is also a scientist, who also knows that the government has been investigating these Martian incidents on Earth. So basically, they call in the army, and they go underground to confront these Martians. Of course, very reminiscent of the Cold War. You never know what communists are really under your feet at any time. It's very Cold War inspired. A lot of themes that we see in pretty much all the sci-fi films that came out during this period. They were all anti-communist, hidden themes. But the film is really inspired by Body Snatchers, or Body Snatchers ended up being really inspired by this movie. The brainwashing, taking over kind of aspect of it is really carried over in that film when it came out years later. The Martians in the movie look absolutely ridiculous. Now that the restoration is so good, you can just notice they look like felted green screen people in suits. They just look absolutely ridiculous. Of course, it's a low-budget sci-fi film from the early 1950s, so that's kind of to be expected. But now, since the restoration is good, you can see the zippers on the back of their costumes and all that kind of stuff. It's just pure cheesiness the last 25 minutes of this movie. We're introduced to the leader of these Martians, who's basically a floating head in this glass fishbowl. He looks absolutely ridiculous. You guys have probably seen photos of the main Martian in this movie. I mean, he just looks absolutely insane and ridiculous, but it adds to the charm of this movie. Now, the movie's not amazing or anything like that. It's your typical sci-fi movie from the time, but you know, it's above average. It's not amazing and it's not horrible, but for the time period, it's above average. So, like I said, it's a brand new 4K restoration, painstakingly restored from a bunch of different negatives, pieced together, and the movie is never going to look as good ever again. I mean, it just looks really, really great. And, you know, Ignite Films, this is their first release, so I'm kind of curious to see what they do going forward, if they're going to start releasing more of these maybe unknown, unappreciative films from the 50s and 60s that may not get any love. So, like I said, it has HDR, it looks color corrected, all that kind of stuff. And then you got a brand new, the trailer is restored in 4K. Then you got a bunch of interviews with some stars. There's an interview on here with Joe Dante and John Landis and some editors. And then we have a featurette of a screening that happened in 2022 at one of the TCM events. That's unfortunate what's going on with TCM right now. It's such an important history, an important part of film history and keeping film history alive. But there's an interview prior to the film on here. And then there's a featurette that talks about the restoration of the movie and what they had to do to make the movie look as good as it does. Really great. And then there's another 2K restoration of international version that is about 8 minutes longer. And basically, when the film was released, international audiences said that the film was too short, 73 minutes or so. So they went back and they shot a scene a year later, added 8 minutes into the film. All the actors are a year older. It doesn't look anything like the original footage that they shot a year earlier. But that edition is on here, and that's just a 2K restoration. It's not a 4K restoration. And then we have a gallery, and then we have a really nice booklet that we'll get into right now. So here is the cover and the back. Lots of features, as you could see. And then we have the disc. And then inside here we have a booklet that talks about the restoration, you know, what went into restoring the film, all about the different kind of film types that this film was shot with, about the elements. Just a really nice, thick booklet. I mean, there are some images that you can see what the film looked like when they were restoring it, and trust me, it does not look anything like this anymore. This is the original title card, and here you could see the newly restored title card and how amazing and different it looks. Just a crazy, crazy restoration here. There's some more images of the restoration. So this is a really great booklet and talks about the film. There's the leader of the Martians. So just a really nice, thick booklet in here from Ignite Films. And overall, just a really great package, a great restoration of a not very good film, but a very important film in the early 1950s sci-fi genre. So I definitely recommend you guys pick this up, support Ignite Films, because they really did an amazing job with this. And I hope that they pick up more movies and restore them in the future, because I feel like they really did this one justice. So that is my review of Invaders from Mars on 4K from Ignite Films. You can pick this up on 4K, like I said, at all your favorite online retailers. If you guys like this review, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/NESRuler22. And you can follow me on Letterboxd, letterboxd.com/NESRuler22. Hope everybody is doing well, and everybody here in the States have a very happy and safe 4th of July. And I shall talk to you guys soon. See you guys.